I wanted to do another video to delve into details about how about some of the things that were useful to me when I recovered from depersonalization derealization disorder, and especially I wanted to talk about meditation because I think meditation was very useful to me for my recovery. Before I do that, I also want to say I'm not a medical professional. I don't know anything about medicine, to be totally honest. I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything. I'm just basically a guy who I just want to tell you what worked for me, and take that, and hopefully there's something that'll work for you. I know there's a lot of different videos on the internet about how to recover from depersonalization derealization disorder. I'm just giving you my own personal experience. Before I do that, I want to say that I'm sitting in my basement. I know you probably think this is a big Hollywood soundstage. It's not. It's my basement. I'm in quarantine. It's day, I don't forgot, gosh, maybe 30 some, 33, 34 of my quarantine. And it's around midnight on Monday, the April 13th, um, 2020. And I had a few people respond to some other videos that I did about depersonalization, derealization disorder. I really want to say that if you have this, I'm pulling for you. You're going to recover. I recovered. I had it for about 6 or 7 months in 2016. And it was honestly one of the hardest things I ever had to deal with by a long, by a long shot. I'm a happier person now, and I think this quarantine has been a lot easier for me because I learned a lot from having depersonalization, derealization disorder that is helping me in the quarantine. But anyway, what I want to talk about today was something that in the probably within the first few weeks that I had the disorder, I was started to look for ways that I could control my mind because obviously this is a mental disorder. I wanted something that could control my anxiety. I also another problem that I was having. The first thing that I tried when I got depersonalization disorder was drugs. I tried. I got several different drugs prescribed for me. Honestly, it was so much worse when I had the drugs. I know drugs work for a lot of people, and I'm not. If it works for you, God bless you. But it didn't work for me. So I didn't have another option. I had to find something that would fix my mind. I tried a lot of different things. I tried exercise, and I still am a big proponent of exercise. But even when I would run like 6 miles, it still wouldn't help. I'd run and I'd want the fix, and I never got that. I never got out of the depersonalized, derealized state. So one thing that I started to do is I started to think, well, I better try to explore how to fix my mind. And it was pretty funny because honestly tried a lot of different things. I tried one of the funnier ones. My wife was making fun of me for this. I tried Tibetan throat chanting. You know that way that like that chanting, because I saw some monks doing this, and I was like, maybe that's the key. Because nothing was working. I was willing to try just about anything. Maybe that's going to work for someone. Didn't work for me. But one day I came across a video on the internet because I wanted to learn meditation. I read in some of the forums that, especially about this Zen meditation, and somebody said that it worked for them. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And I felt like there might be something in meditation that would help me with this. So I came across a video, and the name of that video, I wrote it down, I looked it up, was How to Meditate, Beginner's Introduction to Zazen. It's with, the hardest part I had about that video was the way they're seated. I'm a big guy, and I'm older, and it was really difficult to sit like that. But luckily I ran across other videos where they said the way he sits really not that important, which was good because I was hoping that I could meditate. So what I ended up doing was just sitting in a chair, and it was pretty easy what I was doing. I was counting. I was doing counting breaths. And I talked to a not a psychologist, and she told me, she gave me this pamphlet or something about mindfulness. And as I began to read it, I thought, this is just I think I've read a lot of this stuff before. It sounds very similar to a lot of things I read about in Buddhism. And luckily, my wife, who is I've been with for 20 years, is a absolutely wonderful person and has gotten over some of her own illnesses. Had me convinced that meditation could work. She had a very serious medical problem that was going to require surgery, and honestly, she immediately thought, I can meditate my way out of this. And she did. She had it was Graves' disease that she had, and she was able to reduce levels through because she was in a very stressful situation. Her body broke down. She was able to control that with meditation and mindfulness. So my wife is a big proponent of this. She really knew that it would work. So I came across that video, and I will honestly tell you, my first week of meditation was not very successful at all. I felt like I wasn't doing anything, which is kind of the point. And it wasn't helpful. But I could probably only do it. I would say when I started, I was doing like 4 or 5 minutes before I just had to get up and frantically run around, or and act like I regularly do, distracted, annoyed, you pick it. I ran into some, but as I probably within about a month, I started to be able to go for longer and longer periods of time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I was really kind of beginning to explore the feelings that I had that were inside of me. I also ran across a great book in the forums, which was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. The introduction to that book is amazing. And it may be something that a lot of you that had depersonalization, derealization experienced. I know it was very similar to some things that I've experienced. So that was a really good book. I also will recommend, there's a video called How to Train Your Monkey Mind. And when I saw that video, I laughed. I had to click on the link. Because monkey mind is exactly the type of mind you have when you have a lot of anxiety, especially with something like that monkey mind. I probably had that before. And that was I like the How to Train Your Monkey Mind is great video. I also really enjoyed Dharma lectures. There's a guy, he's an Australian monk that has Dharma lectures. Great. That was another useful video that I watched. Another book that I recommend that I liked. I don't think I didn't like it as much as The Power of Now, but I really enjoyed it. Was John Kabat-Zinn's Wherever You Go, There You Are. Another book about meditation. Absolutely amazing book. And I got to the point where over a period of time, I could probably meditate for 40 or 50 minutes at a time. And it was definitely, I still had the depersonalization, but I could feel my mind starting to change. And I really think it was from the meditation. Another couple of people that I looked at a lot, and I don't know why I found this so comfortable. There was, and I think these guys are, there's a guy that was, there's an Army veteran. He is named Richard Overton, oldest living veteran. I guess he's 112 now. And I don't think he's a man who I'm sure described himself as Christian, but his life philosophy, there was something just very, very centering about listening to him talk. And it was very Buddhist, the way that he described things. And I'm sure he wouldn't, but it really felt centering. There was another guy who I also enjoyed. And for some reason, his voice and the way I watched his video probably 100 times. It was like medicine for me. And it was a wonderful video. Videos about him, the way he talks about things, the way he cares about people, the way he, looks at enjoys life and lives simply. Living simply is a big one. There was a guy that was paroled from prison, and he is a meditation. He's a Buddhist. Trying to find his name. His name's Otis. I think it's Otis. Yeah, he's a Buddhist. And or I don't know if he would describe himself as a Buddhist. I don't want to speak for him, certainly. But his name's Otis Johnson. He went to prison when he was 25. He was released when he was 69. Now, the thing that I liked about his videos was that he went through some incredibly difficult things. And at the age of 69, he's released. But he's released like no one I've ever seen. It's like this man has this calm. Like when I first saw it, I didn't really even know that he meditated. But I didn't even look it up because of meditation. I was just watching. I was like, who is this guy? This is interesting. And I feel like he's really gotten that concept of now, the concept of the living now. And I watched this video for a little while, and then I realized the guy meditates. That's like he's an amazing man. He's really figured out a way to enjoy life. I mean, most of these people, if you meet them that have been to prison, are so angry, and so that's what got them to prison in the first place. And prison didn't help them. But this guy just like really had this amazing philosophy of life, and I found his video to be really inspiring. I read a lot about Sufis, like Sufi Islam, especially who's the Sufi poet, Rumi. I got something out of that. That stuff was kind of recommended by Eckhart Tolle. But as I was trying to fill my mind with these type of ideas and trying to meditate, it was a really the more of it I put in, the better I became at my narrative in my mind. The way I viewed the world began to change. And one of the interesting thoughts, like, you get these things in your mind about your view of the world. And I began to think that I was always trying to correct my mistakes from the past or past regrets, or trying to plan for the future, like, oh my God, if this happens, what do I do? If this happens, what do I do? If this happens, what do I do? And a lot of that, I worked in tech at a large software company in Redmond, Washington in the 90s. I was a contractor. I was paid very, very little. And I worked 80 hours a week. It was not a good job. But I was constantly stressed about having it. I was like, I have to do this. I would stay up all night, and I was constantly in this cycle of, I'm going to get to the next thing. I'm going to get to the next thing. Which was really a bad idea. It was not good. And I still see people that are in that state. And I think about it, and it kind of destroys your body. I think being in that state for long periods of time was one of the reasons that I ended up getting depersonalization. Being constantly in like this frantic stress, where I was going to prove myself. I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to prove myself. I mean, I regularly went to bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And the strange thing was, I honestly wasn't very successful either. I was managing to do all this stuff without acquiring any level, so I kind of had it. I really, whatever. It didn't work out very well for me. But I was going to do it. I was going to so stressed, and that really didn't work out. But I remember the thought that I had that was really kind of opened my mind. And it's strange how just like your vision of the world changes suddenly. And it was through a lot of stuff that I was reading. But in The Power of Now, I mean, I really understood that my reality is this moment right here. It's not the future. It's not the past. The future is simply just a narrative. It's a story that I tell myself. Oh my God, this is going to happen. I can't really control that future. I have a story that is my life. And and the same thing with the past. When I look at the past, it's just a story. If it's these things I believe about myself from the story that I tell myself. And that story is always, I mean, one of the things that I started to notice in meditation was I quit thinking. I was able to not think as much, and which was strange because I was always trying to lock everything into this logical little puzzle of how my life is going to go and this and that. But not thinking was probably the best vacation I've ever had. Not thinking was great. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. It was like when I could get to that meditative state where and I wasn't like I was not thinking all the time, but I just that stop, that flow. Oh, one other thing you gotta watch is there's on that, I think it's on Netflix. It's anything you can read about the science of happiness. Very important. Very, very important. That made me smile for a long time when I saw that. That was really good. I think all of these things are pieces. If you're filling your mind with this type of stuff, it's pieces that over a period start to change your narrative of the world, and from a negative narrative to a positive narrative. And that positive narrative is very, very healing. It can really, really heal your mind. At least it did for me. Yeah, so I wanted to share all that because I feel like that's kind of some of the details about the things that I was working on to change my mind. Another funny story was when I started to come out of the depersonalization derealization, there was a period of time where I I would get it for like little chunks of time, and then it would go away, and I get it for another little chunk of time. Well, I got a tech contract, programming contract, at big tech company, and which is whatever. That's what I do, and and I didn't really have time. I was like working a lot, and but I managed to do it a lot better than I regularly do. I wasn't frantic because I realized it is what it is, and it didn't really bother me as much. But I didn't have as much time to meditate because I was traveling back. I was actually riding my bike back and forth to get exercise. But there was a section where every day I would ride my bike one direction, which is about 20 miles, and then I take the bus back. But I was like, I thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to meditate anymore. But what I started to do was when I get on the bus became my sort of little temple. It was crowded with people, and I would just sit in my seat. And before, when I'd get on the bus, I was always so, oh my gosh, I got to get here. And this person smells, and this person, and just that aggregated. If the bus is like, it wasn't a fun place. But I would use my time that sometimes it was 10 minutes, sometimes it was 40 minutes, and I would sit there and I would meditate. And let me tell you, that was a wonderful bus ride. Go Seattle Metro, go Mass Transit. So yeah, Mass Transit. It was like, I remember one day the bus actually was stopped, and it was like there was some kind of traffic issue, and the bus had to go a different route. It took a lot longer, and I remember before I'd be like, let me off the bus. I'll with all these people, and I thought to myself, that's great, man. I'm gonna get another 20 minutes to just sit here, and I'm gonna use it to meditate. It was absolutely wonderful. So one of the things that I would say if you want to change your mind, you got to explore those type of things. Get the books, like start reading that stuff, like fill your mind with all of that. It's wonderful stuff to put into your mind. Start the meditation. And if you're not good at it, that's okay. Keep going. Like, and read The Power of Now too. I think Eckhart Tolle has some great has a great philosophy, and he talks the stuff that he described about the way these, like, I felt like this thing in my body, like I felt like a pain or an ache when I get like this anxiety. I felt, this is and the way he talks about that, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like, he knows what I'm feeling. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences with it. And I really, really hope that is helpful to anybody that's out there that's struggling with this. I'm sorry I don't look better, but I can't get a haircut because I'm in quarantine. All the rest of that, and but thank you. And also, by the way, I want to say this. I'm going to say this in every video I ever talk about on depersonalization disorder. There's a huge upside to depersonalization derealization disorder, at least for me. And that upside was that I am a happier person today because I had the disorder. My mind is calmer. I'm happier. I'm more grateful for things in my life. Um, there was a silver lining in depersonalization disorder. It made me a better person, and it made me a happier person. So I always want to mention that because I think when you're in in depersonalization, I don't have it at all anymore. I don't. I rarely. If I felt it, it might be for a minute or two, but it has never really come back, and that's been 4 years. So I want to mention that because for me, it gave me a lot of brightness and happiness and other things that I probably never